projects because that's what we do in Los Angeles. We build things. So let's give a hand for Murthy.
Good evening, everybody. Bob, thank you for the generous introduction that you gave. I don't know whether I qualify for all those good words, but I'll try. Before I go into some of the projects that we are doing, I thought one of the general interests for everybody would be why we are doing what we are doing and the way we are doing it. Before I came to LA Metro, this agency was doing pretty much one project at a time, and their approach was design, bid, build, completely design the whole thing and build, set it out for bids and building. When I came over here and the measure R got approved, we had an opportunity to look at the project delivery methods and see what can we do to accelerate the projects. What can we do to get the private industry involved earlier on so that they can be a part of the final solution to the project. So that's when we looked in seriously into design build options, and we did a lot of studies. We had some external peer review people come in and talk about what is the best way to do the project. So we decided that we should look into design build quite seriously. The things that influence our decision to go design build are quite a few of them. Things that I looked into is the project duration. How long does these projects take, and what kind of a management structure we should have in place, both on the consultant side as well as our side. And then we looked at the budget. How big is this project, and what it does take to manage and implement the project. Then looked at the project complexity, how complex these projects are. And then if we do go design build, how much level of design we should provide to these design build entities so that they can come up with a price that they can live with. And then we also wanted to make sure they have value engineering opportunities in the projects that they want to design and build. More importantly, we wanted to integrate the design and construction together, and design build provided that opportunity so they can work together and come up with the ideal thing. Normally in the design bid build, as you're all aware of, is the engineers come up with their best solution to the problem, and then the contractor's approach would be maybe different from what the engineer has said. So then we get into a lot of discussion as to who is right, who is wrong, what should we do. So we felt the design build opportunity gives the designer as well as the contractor to work together and come up with a solution that best fits their needs and methods. So that's one of the issues that we seriously looked at and decided what we want to do. Risk is probably one of the most important factors that influence our decision making. How much risk we should take as an owner, how much risk the contractor should take, and how can we have a balanced portfolio of risk between the contractor and the owner. And then of course the staff expertise. Each project is complex in its own nature. What kind of staff do we need? Do we have the ability to bring in the number of experts we need in these mega projects from our side? So these are the factors that influence our decision to go into design build. The other issue that we are looking into is we already have a 60-mile system in operation. We have been running this system for the last 20 years. We have built them all. We have designed them. We have built them. We have been operating them. So we know what we want is an extension of what is already out there. So why do we need to start redesigning all over again? Why don't we ask the design build community, give me 5 more miles of this or 8 more miles of that. And we have, as a mature agency, we have an established criteria, we have established standards, and we have specifications to all of the things that we want them to do. Our requirements for systems are very clear. They are performance-based requirements. The only thing we ask them is to make sure that the new equipment and new technology matches with what we already have, so we don't have to replace what we already have. So it's a question of balancing that between what is new and how we can bring the new system into the existing system. At some point, we have to make the overall change, but it has to be gradual. So those are some of the main factors that influence us to go design build. And then we looked at the risk. Risk is a major factor in our evaluation. I don't know, those of you who have worked with the FTA probably know they have a very vigorous and robust risk register that we have to follow. Every task in a contract is looked upon as a risk item, and then we have to come up with a numerical system of saying how much of risk is each of those factors involved in construction. And the FTA is very particular about the risk evaluations, and they bring in their own independent risk analysts and sit down with us and go through it. And as we proceed with the design, we go back and revisit this risk register funding. And then we look into whether have we mitigated the risk or have we increased the risk. So that plays a much bigger role in the FTA participation in our construction contracts. They come up with, if they feel certain item is of higher risk, they insist on us carrying additional contingency in our contracts. So that we have to take into consideration when we go for the value of the contract. And we meet every quarterly on all of our major projects where the federal funding is involved. When it comes to federal funding, even if you get $1 from them, $1 billion project will still have to follow the federal requirements. So that's why we have to follow the FTA's risk register regulations, and it's a very robust process that we have to follow. And then we also have some MTA mandated requirements that we have to follow on our own. The issues involved with liability, insurance, and all of those things we need to do that. In addition to all of these things, we also need to make sure that we have a project that we can work with the contracting teams out there. What can we do to make these projects a success? So we have to sit down and define the expectations that what we think should be there and what the contractors are thinking as an agent, from an agency like ours. So we go through the scope and try to go as best as we can, defining all the issues involved with the project so that they can fully understand the complexity of the project and provide a price for us for that. Budget is based on what we do on independent estimates at different levels of the design. In a design build, as soon as all the engineering issues are defined during the preliminary engineering, we do an independent estimate, and we also hire an outside consultant to validate our estimate. So that way we are fairly certain that we are taking into consideration the market fluctuations and the market value of the project that we are putting out for bid. So that is validated again by FTA. When we provide them these numbers, they bring in their own consultant and they do an independent estimate. So we have 3 validations of this budget when we do it. Schedule is very important. One of the reasons for choosing the design rig option is the benefit that we can get out of this parallel work, design and construction work. Based on what we have done and what we have seen and what we have experienced, on $1 billion program like what we have, we can achieve about 8 to 10 months of construction schedule savings. So that is a significant amount of, in terms of just money, if you take 10 months, $1 billion, and put your market value interest rates to it, that's a pretty good chunk of money in itself. So that's one of the reasons, also additional reason for doing what we are trying to do. We also try to make sure that we have a clearly defined deliverables in the project. Because of the design build, the contractor probably may come up with lump sum prices and all that, but we still need to pay them on a regular basis so they don't have to finance the project and charge that financing cost to us. So we try to come up with these deliverables and equate it to a payment in that contract. So that way the contractor is paid as he starts progressing the work. Coordination issues, we try to sort out the responsibilities between the contractor and the agency. We try to define as clearly as we can in our documents, this is your responsibility. For example, the getting permits from the cities and all that, even though we get the initial permits, all these permits have a shelf life of 6 months or a year in some cases. Most of them are for a 6 month period. So the contractor, they can get those initial permits and then the contractor has to go back and get those permits from the cities and whoever agencies they are involved in. And they need to be able to explain to the issuing authority, permit issuing authority, what are the means and methods and how it influences the permit requirements and all of that, so that they take that responsibility from that point onwards. We are always there to help them and try to work there with them and make sure that they get their permits on time and get the job done. One of the contractual obligations that we make sure is contractors on a job like on $1 billion program probably will have something like 7,000 to 8,000 submittals on the contract, all these detailed design submittals for us to review and respond. The only way the contractor can proceed with full speed is how fast we can get those approvals back to the contractor, or what we call the concerns that we have, let him know these are the issues that we are concerned about your submittal, try to come back with the submittal that answers our questions. So we take some risk in committing ourselves and also commit the city and other agencies we have to review that we are going to get back to you in X number of days. Each contract has a very clear, specified number of calendar days within which we are going to review and respond to those submittals. If we don't do it, then we are liable for the additional cost as a result of those late delays. And then, of course, all our policies and procedures they have to follow, we provide all of those things. And then we try to do partnering right from day one. We try to meet with the executives of the firms that we engage, and then clearly work out what are the responsibilities we think that we should be doing, they should be doing, and they should bring their hot button items to the executive partnering session, and we sit down and try to iron out things. So we've been doing that for all these projects. Partnering sometimes works well, sometimes doesn't work well. So it's not a cure for all the problems. But we try to work through the issues and try to resolve them and move forward. And the management structure is an extremely important issue for us, how we manage these projects. So what we have come up with is what we call the Integrated Project Management Office. We have been able to find office space where the contractor, his engineers, and his construction folks, our folks, as well as the folks from the city, all can be under one roof. So that way we are able to just walk across and talk to the people who are working on. They come to us with their problem. So we have this integrated project office structure. And the person who runs that office is the MTA person. So our guy leads that project. So we have a project director assigned to each of these projects. And they have an integrated project office. So it's like getting one source contact for all the issues for that particular project. And so that's our IPO structure. Some of the other things we look into is the project of this big nature is it has all kinds of issues other than the normal engineering and execution. We look at funding, and then of course we talked about the project delivery method. We look at staffing, whether we can get the staff that we need, or go outside our agency to get the consultant help to help us out in doing that, and what kind of a management structure we need. And it's interestingly, when it comes to management, these mega projects like what we have in LA, the contractors are competing for the same talents that we want them on our board. So, but we can't compete with the contractors to attract with heavy sums of money and Rolls Royce and house in Palace. We can't afford all that. So our salary structure is whatever it is. So we have to compete for qualified people to manage these structures. Fortunately, we have some very good staff for the projects that we have. The other thing, when you are doing several projects at the same time, like the regional connector, the Crenshaw line on the west side, consistency in design and consistency in all the documents that we do. So we spend a lot of time to make sure that we are consistent across the whole design and everyone meets the criteria and standards that they are established. So our engineering group in this building, that's their job, to look for consistency to make sure that we are there. We have a very robust tracking and reporting system. Project control is pretty aggressive. They're pretty much independent of the engineering and execution team. So that way they are like the doctors who feel the pulse of the project and report, you are 10 days behind schedule, you have spent $200 million more than you should spend. How do you get the project back on track? So there's some checks and balances we are building within the organization so we know how to track our progress. Which is, we are trying to make it pretty much a real-time information. So on a Monday morning, we would like to make sure if we can, with all the technology we have, the project director knows exactly what was the commitment for the work to be done the previous week, what got done, what did not get done, if not, how can we catch up with it. So that's the real-time project information system we are trying to build in. And we are almost there, but not there yet, but that's what we are working on. Quality is an extremely important issue for us. Although in a design build, we make the design build team responsible for quality control and quality assurance, we have our own QA people making sure that the process is followed, and we have full authority for our quality people to go and check everything that's done out there to make sure the project is built according to the standards that we have. Safety is extremely important for us. I think we have a great record of safety in the agency. I just heard on the 405 the other day, they have done some 8 million hours or something like that with an accident rate of less than 40% of the national average. So we pay a lot of attention to the safety. Safety of people who work, safety of the patrons, safety of the public who come in contact with the construction. So we are pretty, make sure that it is done right. And of course, we also have a lot of regulations and oversight that we have to go through. We had the FTA people in the form of PMOC, Project Management Oversight companies. They come and they do their independent analysis and evaluation of what we are doing, how we are doing. They write their report. And then, of course, we have audits coming through wherever you can find. Last year, I had 26 audits on one project. So we have to respond to all of their audit questions. The auditors come, some look for the process, some look for the project deliveries, some look for payment issues, so we have to make sure that we follow all the regulations for that. So in addition to the project itself, we have all of these parameters and the boxes that we have to work within and make this project work. So it's for a $1 billion program, it's pretty challenging. And if you have multi-projects at the same time, it gets all the more challenging. Everything multiplied by 3 times, 4 times. If we are fortunate enough to get all the funding that we are looking for from the feds and everybody, next year by this time we have almost $6 billion worth of construction work going on out there in the field, which is almost like $4 to $5 million per day in construction. So that's a lot of work that's going to happen. And all of these needs to be monitored, all of these needs to be properly executed. And we also have to comply with all the commitments that we have made in the environmental documents and all that. So the life of a project director is not easy. I just recently hired one, and I told him all I can give that person is a sleeping bag. That would be my gift. The work is 24/7. It's pretty demanding, and we are totally responsible for it. We also need to respond to the elected officials and government agencies and the public who are being sometimes inconvenienced because of it. project. So that's in general why we are doing what we are doing. I thought I would give you the background before I move into the project. Now I'd like to just go and talk about some of the few projects that are out there that we are going to do. I got instructions how to do this. I hope it works.
Technical department.
I'm not doing this right? This one?
Yeah, that's one.
All right. What we got here is what you will see as a metro rail system in the year 2023. Starting from the left-hand side, you will see the purple line extension, line 1, which is the one that we are currently working on. And then on the right side, you will see the gold line foothill extension, which is already in construction. The orange color that we have for the gold line and foothill is because they are done by two different agencies created for designing and building. We fund them, but they are being done independently, but we do have oversight responsibility on it and making sure that these projects are built according to our standards and criteria and we accept them. And then we also have the regional connector there in the middle and Crenshaw LAX project that's the one which we just awarded. So what we are talking here is 5 new projects which are adding about 32 miles to the system, and the total cost of this would be around $8.2 million, these projects. So between now and year 2023, without any projects, that's the amount of money we will be spending on. The Blue Line light rail was built in 1990, 22 miles. So now this system is almost 20 years old. So it needs the care and caretaking of the system, which is old. So we are now embarking on a refurbishing program on the Blue Line, all the stations, making sure the station platforms and canopies and lighting systems and all that. So we have started that program. And this is in addition to the major programs that we already have. The red purple line is the heavy rail that was built between 1993 and 2000. We opened that. That's about 17.4 miles. The purple line that you see extension, section 1, is the extension of the old red line from Wilshire West going up. And then we have the green line, which is in operation, which was built in 1995, 20 miles. It's been serving very well. And the Crenshaw line is going to make the connection to the green line once we are done with Crenshaw. And then the gold line rail, which is the east side, is built in 2009, 13.7 miles. Then the Expo line is the 8.6 miles. So these are the ones that are already in service. The ones that are in construction at this point are the Expo Phase 2 light rail, which is $1.5 billion, and the Gold Line foothill extension, which is 11.5 miles, and the cost of $741 million or so. And the other 3 projects that we are currently working on, the Crenshaw, which is about 8.5 miles and $2.1 billion approximately. Regional Rail, which is $1.4 billion and 1.9 miles. And the purple line is the heavy rail. Got it. So the next one we're going to go through is the Crenshaw LAX Transit Corridor. This one we just awarded this contract in September to Walsh-Shea Contractors, and the cost of the project is about $2.05 billion. The contractor is fully on board, and this is a design build. It's all light rail. It has got underground portion approximately 2 miles, less than 2 miles. And then we have upgrade, aerial, and trench, and then ultimately connects with the green line. Probably you have heard a lot of discussions going on in our board regarding Crenshaw line and the LAX connection and all that. That issue is being dealt separately from the Crenshaw line. As soon as they decide where it is that they want to connect the Crenshaw line to the LAX, we may have to do something. Otherwise, at this point, the project is proceeding as designed, as executed. So the NTP was issued, as I said, and we are doing a lot of advanced utility relocation in all of these projects. We try to take the existing utilities out of the way for the main contractor to come in. When they come in, so that way they can go straight and start doing their excavation work or putting piles in place. So we take a good look at all the existing utilities and see which one of those we can get it out of the way in advance with the main contractor coming in. So the contractor, when he comes in, he has the space available for him. Utilities has always been a big surprise for us. Even though we go through potholing and get all the records from the existing companies there, whether it's AT&T or SC or city of DWP, power line, whatever you call it. Sometimes when we go there, they are in a different place than what they go and show. So it's always a surprise element. We go and do what we call the potholing and try to locate these utilities and make sure that we have identified all of them, but not all of them sometimes are visible. 405 project from the Sapalwada, classic example of what utilities can be. That Sapalwada Boulevard is a 60-year-old street, a premier north-south route. You name the utility is there. It's the gas, it's got flowing oil, it's got water, all AT&T, Chevron, Mobile, you name it, so all the telephone companies. Something like 48 utilities were there in the Sapalwada Boulevard. And it took us a long time to make extensive search as to find out where these utilities are. One of the things we have done is we are telling the contractors that they have 120 days upfront in their contract, so they can go and do all the potholing they need to do and identify all the utilities they can. And if they can demonstrate that those utilities are going to be coming in the way of their execution, then we will acknowledge that it will change. If not, they will be responsible for that. So we have made that very clear in the documents. Do your potholing to your heart's content. Find out what you can find and tell us how it is going to impact you. But you'll be surprised with all that, you still find utilities that nobody knows. For example, right here that we are doing the Chavez Street, there are holes like 6 feet by 8 feet, empty hole under the street. This was probably done during the old days, the Pacific Railroad days or something. None of the drawings show that, nowhere in the documentation that we have seen that these holes, cavities exist, and we have to go and fill those things with light cement, concrete or something. Surprise after surprise, we find bones there. So these are some of the things that we sometimes cannot account for earlier on, but when it comes to it, then we got to go and deal with it. So that's what we do. Even now, every night the Chavez Street gets closed. We're almost there to the approach of the bridge. There is on the bridge there, so that's where we have all of these issues we are trying to find out. Okay, that's the Crenshaw. Next one would be regional connector. Regional connector is 1.9 miles, and this is also a contract value of $1.4 billion. We have sought for the best and final offer on this contract. We have received all of that, and we are in evaluation of those dates at this time. So that's all I can talk about on that one, because once we get all those things done, then we can say who the successful bidder is or not. Here also, just like as I said, we are doing advanced utility relocation, and wherever we can go in advance and comply with all the city regulations and relocate it. We got to get all the permits from the citizens. We are doing it on our own in advance of the main construction. We got to get all the permits ourselves, so we have done those, so we are working on those. And the bid phase services, we also engaged construction manager for this, who is going to be working as a part of our team. That's Arcadis, and they're on board. So as soon as they are currently engaged to look at all the constructability part of the contract and everything, and they will be a part of our team when the contract goes into full execution. Next one I want to talk about is the Purple Line extension, which is the extension of the old red line from this here restaurant. I know it goes almost 3.9 miles all the way up to La Cienega. And we are doing here at Wilshire, La Brea, and all those station areas, except for the La Cienega station, we are doing advanced security relocations along the Wilshire corridor, as well as where the stations are located. And we have received the proposals on this, it came in last January 21st or so. So that's under evaluation at this time. So we hope to complete these evaluations and award the contract as quickly as we can. One of the other interesting things I want to talk about the Purple Line is, based on our geotechnical investigation that we have done, there is supposed to be a lot of tar sand over there at the Wilshire Fairfax area, and these tar sands is supposed to have the archaeological interest bones there in there. And also one of the things is the tar sands have a tendency to capture the gas and stay there. We don't know how much gas is captured in the tar sands. And when once you go there to excavate, what kind of pressures can you expect, what ventilation we need to face in order to make sure it is safe. So we decided to do a test pit. So we are doing a test pit. We are currently around 55 or 56 feet. We have come across some of the tar sands that we expected. And we are also putting a different excavation support systems to measure the values that we can get the earth pressure on these support systems. There has been a lot of good excavation done in the tar sands, but we wanted to get our own results and see what kind of pressures that we can expect, so the contractors knows what to design for. Then you go 70 to 90 feet excavation, and you have a 30 feet of tar sands pressure on your excavation support system. You want to make sure that the contractor knows in advance. We have also encouraged the contracting teams to go and do their own testing, do their own inspections, so that way they can come up with their own idea of what it takes to work in that environment. So that, even though they have given us the final bids, they will be fully open for them between now until the last date. They give a custom kind of offer. They can do whatever investigation they like, and then tell us what their final price is going to be. Next one, I thought, this is the one I was talking about, the capital projects. The system is getting old. We need to replace some of those old facilities that we have. So right now, we have all of these projects that we are looking at. Signal system rehabilitation on the blue line. That's a $64 million approximately our estimate. We hope to get that out and award it in June of this year. And then red line train Bayside communication rehabilitation under $1.8 million. Gold line train control and communication bungalows. We need to put an additional traction power substation and a train control room. That's another $1.2 million. And then vertical system. As you probably visit our stations, you see some of the escalators are showing its age. And one of the issues that we have is these escalators have been running in the same direction for a long time, so you cannot reverse them. So the only best way to do is to replace them and start reversing them from day one. So that way we can, depending on the age of these escalators and also the failures, we are able to reverse it and make sure the people have access to get in and out. So we have a program to replace the aged escalators and elevators. So that is in place. The Civic Center station, they're going to do some new elevators and escalators put in there. That's a $12 million thing. Blue line past pedestrian and swing gates, $7.7 million. And the Long Beach signal rehabilitation, another $4.6 million. So these are all the upcoming contracts for those of you who are interested in what's happening. In addition to that, we also have regional rail. So what we have in regional rail status for you is, as you probably know, regional rail, the Metrolink, Amtrak, and also the San Diego, Ferry, you know more than I do, they're at the back of there. So we are working with regional rail authorities, Metrolink, and we don't manage their project, but we fund them. So we have vested interest to make sure the projects are done. We also have commitments with the high-speed rail people for them to do some advanced work ahead of their arrival to the area. So that is in discussion. So some of the engineering opportunities over the coming year listed there, in January to March, we have 3 contracts there. One night station, Yada County Great Crossing Technical Program. And sometime in summer of this year, we will see the Brighton to Oxford double tracking, and then Burbank Harbor Airport. And also in 2014, you have portions of the Antelope Valley, engineering and environmental work, some grade separation project study reports. This is for the high-speed rail work. And then the San Bernardino double track phase 1. So these are some of the contracts, upcoming contracts in the year. So that's all I have for you as a presentation. I'll be happy to answer your questions if I can.
Could you go back to the utility relocation as far as when you mentioned the change order and what qualifies as a change order when you're relocating utilities?
What qualifies for the change?
Yeah, you mentioned that there's an advanced phase where MTA goes in relocate utilities.
Right.
But when the contractor goes in, they start work, if they find a utility in the way of their construction, then that's a change order.
That's why we are giving the first 120 days to do all the potholing that they want to do. And if they don't discover that during that potholing period, then if we can discuss that. But we encourage them to do as much potholing as they can and tell us which are the new utilities that they have found. And if they can demonstrate that the new utility is impacting their construction, then we will accept it as a change. But, so something that's unknown to anybody, and we can't, that will not be a change according to current condition.
Thank you.
Our language in the documents is not to punish the contractor. I think we want to make sure that they understand clearly the responsibilities are defined, and they perform their responsibilities and we perform ours. So there is always some gray areas here and there which we need to sit down and address.
So Murthy, regarding the potholing, is Metro going to be paying for all the potholing?
No, it's a part of the contractors. That's why we clearly say it's your cost and you do it. And if you find anything that we have not been able to address it in our further engineering, we'll be happy to sit down and consider that. We have seen a lot of things out there, as I said, we find, in spite of all the work that we do, there's still some entities out there which we cannot know. So it happens. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
My understanding that MTA does a 30% engineering design for the design build contracts, but that in other jurisdictions across the country, they provide the contractor with more flexibility to do less design up front. How did Metro decide on how much pre-design engineering to do before the design build project, the RFP is led? How do they reach the 30% design
It's a
decision?
very good question. The 30% the preliminary engineering is an industry term that everybody uses. We don't necessarily design every discipline of engineering to 30% level. One of the things we do, for example, when you are in an urban environment, we would have already looked into the right-of-way requirements and how it impacts the properties and the public right-of-way and all that. We try to advance the design to a higher level than 30% to make sure that we have an advanced knowledge of real estate acquisition and all those things that we do. So we advanced that beyond 30% in some cases. And for example, in the case of Purple Line, we know that we have tar sands and we have some big ventilation issues. And we also know we need to design tunnel liners in a way that there is no seepage into the tunnels, either tar sand or the gases. So we have advanced that design higher than 30%. To be very clear, the design builder understand the requirements for design and construction of these particular elements in the contract are much higher than the normal industry standards. So if we see that, we design to a higher level.
But again, and in some ways, doesn't that prevent the contractor from suggesting alternatives that may be more recent or technologically updated? I don't know. By MTA making that decision, doesn't it reduce some flexibility and creativity on the side of the proposers after the RFP is issued?
We don't curtail their creativeness at all. We encourage them to come up with their alternative ideas. That's why we have a period there, 4 months or 5 months to give them, so that way they can do their own engineering, whatever they need to do, and then ask us the questions or come back to us. This is our value engineering. Would you consider this? So we give that opportunity to them.
That's during the RFP process.
During the RFP process. That's when once that period is over, we say, okay, now we have all had our conversations. Now you come back to us in X number of weeks, your best and final offer. And that's what we do. That's what we do at Crenshaw. That's what we're doing for regional and safety for.
But there are certain, I don't know what you call it, decisions or fundamental questions that you've decided up front that you don't give the contractor flexibility on.
As an agency, we are responsible for public safety and also for risk. So where we think public safety issues are concerned and the risk is high, so we have to put some boundaries for that. Otherwise, we definitely will go ahead and ultimately we are responsible if something happens by the execution of the contract. So we want to define that box where they should stay, and that's what we do.
Somebody else.
Yes, sir.
Yes, could you please give us an update on the west side and the subway extension?
You mean the one beyond this one?
Correct.
We are currently working on the preliminary engineering. As you probably read the papers, we have some litigation there from the Bell Hills High School, and so that litigation is going on. But we are doing the FDA has already given us the environmental clearance for the entire 9 miles. So it doesn't stop us from doing the engineering. Two things that we have to look at. One is the funding available to the next extension, and then if so, when is it available, and that is going to decide when we can get them out. Right now, we don't have a funding scenario for the next extension. All we have is a commitment up to last year.
So what's your best guess in terms of timeline?
It depends on so many factors. That's why probably you might have read in the papers, Metro and its board is considering putting an extension of the Measure R tax to the public again. Sometime the time frame is, I don't know, maybe 2016 or earlier, in order to construct all the projects under Measure R and maybe bring them to a much closer completion date than what we are saying. Right now, it's the second decade and third decade projects, so beyond my lifetime, some of the projects.
So
Yes, sir.
if funding wasn't an issue, how fast could it be done? I just want to do a west side.
Tomorrow.
Could it just $2 million engineering?
Funding is not an issue, and the question would be the capacity issue.
Yeah.
So what capacity do we have to build all these projects at the same time? Whether do we have, we don't want to choke the entire LA County with truck traffic with all these projects going at the same time. We need to consider all of those issues. For example, we are doing the regional and the west side and this thing. We are working with DOT, and these projects get into construction, how many trucks are supposed to be on the road, where can they go, how can they go. So those are the bigger issues that we have to look into in addition to just funding. Also, we need to manage those projects too. We cannot just award the contracts and not manage it. So we need to manage all these projects. What capacity do we have as it exists now? What additional sources we have to bring in to manage those? We need to look at the industry. If I put out 20 miles of tunnels at the same time, where is the industry today and how many contractors are out there who can do the job? If you don't want to be in a situation, if you want me to do it, then I'm going to charge you twice the rate. And if the industry is fully booked for next 10 years or so, then that's the situation you face in. There will not be a good competition. It's a question of, okay, I'll do you a big favor, but you got to pay me more money. So we don't want to be in that situation yet. So these are all the various other factors. That's why we do a commodity survey, we do a capacity survey, we do the technical availability survey, all of those in order to get these schedules work. So it's a lot of work involved behind it. If even somebody throws $10 million at me tomorrow, can I do the extension of the purple line? I need to sit back and take a good look at it, how can we do it, and what's the capacity out there, and what impact does it have on the community, all of those things. But we can certainly accelerate than what we have, absolutely. Yes, sir.
So in that light then, you just mentioned the Measure R extension. Do you have a feeling for 2014 and 2016?
2016 is what I hear, but I don't make those decisions. Politicians will do that. So whenever they decide and whenever we get the money, we are ready to go. Yes, sir.
So after these 5 projects, what's in the forecast? Where do you see, where's the next project?
Well, we have other 9 transit projects under Measure R, and we also have a timetable attached to those 9 projects. Projects like the LAX project is out there, and then we have the Sapalwada ISA 405 project that it's pretty much undefined at this point, other than we need to provide some service between the west side and the valley. So that's there, and then we got the east side extension is on there, Santa Ana branch extension is there, and independently the Foothill Authority is trying to see, they have saved some money in their phase 2. They can use that money to do the preliminary engineering up to Suzar and see what they can do. So all of those are in the works this time. Yes, sir.
So I came here to hear some secret stuff.
We
That's what the flyers-
we are a pretty, we don't have any secrets. We are very transparent agency. Everything we do is transparent.
Let me get the DWP in here, we can.
I saw the
We don't have
flyers
any-
and secrets.
I saw Bart Reed's creative writing, but I'm going to read the secrets. We
Okay,
don't have
then-
any secrets.
Then what about, can you give us some insight to the reorganization of Metro?
It's in process. I don't know all the results. Some of them have been announced, some of them have not been announced. Only Mr. Leahy can answer the question. I don't have any answers for that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
These projects are construction industry oriented. What about other industries, like finance industries or any industries that are non-construction specific that have an opportunity to work on these projects?
There are 3 or 4 projects which are identified as P3, public-private partnership projects. Those projects are pretty big and huge. I can talk the total up to all the projects that I've talked about. We got the Savington that's being talked about, the Savington North, Savington South, and the Desert Corridor Expressway, and also the 405 project to Sapalwada Basin. So they're all shown as the possible public-private partnership projects. So that's where the creative financing and the industry's expertise in proposing how you can do those projects and finance it and maybe operate and maintain it too. So that's on the books and it's being discussed.
Can you explain anything you know about the high desert corridor?
It's in the environmental process of this time. Caltrans is working on the environmental work and we are providing some help.
And is that going to go through your department?
Once the Caltrans preliminary engineering, the environmental clearance is done, then it's a decision to be made who's going to manage it or who's going to build it. So that decision, to my knowledge, is not been made.
Is that project going to be built first in California or first in Nevada?
I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. But I think majority of that is in California.
But where does it start, I'm just curious.
Between Victorville and Palmdale.
That's the first section.
Yeah.
And not the Victorville, Las Vegas section.
Yeah, that's,
No, that's the different.
That's-
Oh, I see.
it's the desert stuff.
In fact, in the title of part are the environmental documents is addressing if there can be a high-speed rail connection connecting the Las Vegas high-speed to California.
Could you expand on the LAX connection, the metro side, and where LAWA stands in terms of the media and so forth?
I can't tell you any more than what you have already read in the papers and heard in our boardroom. Our plans are out there, that's what we are doing, and LAWA has several options that they are looking at. Thank you. So they need to decide as to where they want to connect with the metro rail. So we can't dictate what they can do or what they cannot do. We have X million dollars in our Measure R money, and we have liberty up to that amount to spend it. Beyond that, somebody needs to find the finance that should be allowed.
Isn't that decision coming back to the MTA board in July and to the LAWA board in
They
July?
have asked us to look into what options are out there and evaluate it and see if we can provide a cost to those options. And then the board has to take a look at it to decide. As you know,
The two
because of-
boards both have to, you have two boards, you have the MTA board and you have the LAWA board,
Right.
and that's the, do they meet is the question.
I can't answer the question. I can't answer that.
So, the grade separation study for high-speed rail, do you have, can you talk more about that?
They have identified some 5 projects. It's not clearly defined yet because the high-speed rail, probably as you will read in the reports, they are still in flux about where to go, how to go, how far they can go. So, but they have identified some 5 different grade separation projects between here and I think Irvine, I believe. So, but when it's going to take place, I don't know.
Is it going to be through Metro or?
That's, so far it's Metro, according to our understanding with high-speed rail. We will be managing those.
Your diagram suggested that the existing right-of-way through Acton and up the Antelope Valley is going to have 2 major curves cut off. And it looks like there's a smoother curve. And does that involve tunneling up in that area, or does that just involve surface right-of-way, if you know? You had your diagram that showed the high-speed rail, and it had the existing line up through Santa Clarita and Acton, and it kind of jig-jagged over.
Right, right.
And then you showed a smooth curve, both south of that curve and then north of that curve, another curve north. Those seem to me that those would be going in through the mountain, it seems like. Is that noted this time?
In the mountains, it has to be a tunnel through. They're going to have very high bridges and deep tunnels in that area through the high-speed mountain range.
Was that your,
No, that's
oh, that's the high-speed rail, I see.
Yeah, that's theirs. Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Hi, Mr. Murthy. Under what circumstances does one of the light rail projects fall under construction authority? Like, for example, Gold Line and Expo each have their construction authority that are responsible for the design and construction, and after it's constructed, goes back to Metro for operations and maintenance. But like Crenshaw, for example, the owner itself is Metro for the design and the construction. So what sort of, are there any future projects after Expo and the Gold Line potentially to Ontario that would fall under a construction authority, or will it from here on out be under Metro?
I don't know the answer for you. It's going to be a political decision again. And, we are ready to execute whichever way the board directs us to do. So it's not in our control. The authorities have got a lot more leeway in the way they do things than we do. So I think we have done now 2 the Pasadena line, we have done the Expo 1, and we have 2 more. So we have some lessons learned, so we have our preference which way to go, but it's going to be a political decision. So. Yes, sir.
For the north-south corridors, obviously from LAX to the west side to the valley, if you do small enough segments, the ridership is always going to show light rail. But if you really start connecting these distance, you get to a point where the system gets overwhelmed in a light rail system, and you have to have heavy rail. So how does Metro really come up with a long-term plan that it's not creating an obsolescent short-term system when you really start connecting from Sylmore all the way down to, the South Bay?
It's a very good question. In fact, right now in the valley, we are studying the north-south connection there, whether it should be a light rail or a BRT. It should be whether in Van Nuys Boulevard or somewhere else where the patronage is, and how that line will influence the Orange Line, and what happens to Orange Line patronage. That's currently under study. There has been even some talk of making Orange Line a light rail, replace it from BRT to light rail. So it's got its own challenges, but also in the long-term interest, we want to look at it. So the Valley COG, they are now looking at that one. They may even do an independent study of their own and tell us this is what they found, and we are doing it on our own. Anything else?
Good question. Those of us using the North Hollywood Station, Red Line, and Orange Line, when are we gonna see the eventual underground connection between the two?
We have awarded the contract.
You have already?
We have awarded the contract. It's a design build contract. The contract is on board, and hopefully in the next 2 years it should be done.
2 years old.
So at the end of the orange line, you should be able to go down to the mezzanine level and then just walk up under the street to the mezzanine level. That's all.
And what's the construction time on that?
2 years roughly.
But when are they scheduled to break ground? Like 6 months?
It's again a design build. The contractor is on board with the designer, so hopefully in the next few months they'll finish the design and they can get it done.
What about the Universal City pedestrian?
That also, contract is awarded already.
What's the time frame on that?
That's, I think it's about 2.5 years totally. Because we have to do some work on Lancashire Boulevard to get the foundations for all the bridges and all that.
You say you were involved in some of the other projects like the double tracking in the San Fernando Valley on both the Antelope Valley line and the...
I'm not personally involved, but the MTA is involved. Don Sepulveda is doing those things.
Where is the strip project, the run-through tracks?
I believe it's going to go for procurement sometime in the next 2-3 months.
Yeah, it's RFP was done. Yeah.
When would construction actually start?
I don't have a schedule for you. I can find out.
Do you have any kind of schedule for the continuation of the red line into the Arts District and 6th Street Bridge corridor?
There is a study that's being done. We have engaged a consultant to look at the Division 20 yard as a whole, because a lot of things happening there. There's a desire to do something with the Little Tokyo community out there and extend it all the way up to 6th Street. What kind of a right-of-way is available at the end of the 6th Street there near the bridge?
One Santa Fe project is built actually to have station on the backhand side of it.
Yeah, but if you go the backhand side, then you can't go to 6th Street.
Right.
So that's why we have a study going on to see what is the best use of the whole Division 20 yard and how we can satisfy all the requirements. We still need to find out what the patronage is going to be at 6th Street. What does it take for us to operate a system all the way up to 6th Street? We have a commitment to run the trains at 2.5 minutes intervals. So if you start taking all the trains to 6th Street, can we turn them back and running? So all of those issues have to be looked.
Are there any plans to put communication inside the tunnels for cell phones and wireless? Like parks?
It's being looked into. There are some people who are concerned about it, so we are MTA New York has done it, apparently in some of their subway sections, you can use this thing.
Same with
And
BART.
there's also a passenger annoyance issue that you have to look into. Apparently, somebody put a gun on somebody in New York, was talking so loud on his phone. So all kinds of those issues. Just imagine the planes, if you have to sit next to somebody who is talking for an hour.
But you could say email and text only and no cell phone calls, just the, it's the same issue on the airplanes.
It's beyond humble engineers. It's going to be made by Homeland Security and all. You know, we always discuss these issues with the Homeland Security and everybody, what is out there.
Do you ever see a continuation of the red line past the North Hollywood station?
Well,
Or
that's one
somehow
of the issues that
connecting-
has come up, you
or
know.
connecting Glendale and Pasadena and Burbank
I think
into the
it's
subway?
being looked at, and there is also a lot of interest from the elected officials. What more can you do in the valley? So, but we have, as you know, we have a long-term long-range sort of plan we have. So transportation plan. So to do any project beyond what is in the LRTP, we need to go back to the board and get their approval. They need to revise. So the LRTP has a financial model to support all the programs in that long range. So if you insert another into that equation, the finance model cannot.
So you have to do decade 3 projects before you add anything else in?
Yeah, but you know, if somebody comes with here is the money, you just go ahead and do it. You know, that's a possibility. But we got to go through the long range transportation plan.
But isn't it true that all of those, the money and the plans can be changed by a 2/3 vote of the board?
The board has the authority to make changes. Yes, sir.
Rose, well, along the thoughts of internet and that infrastructure, I guess what's the status of any kind of, if any, regarding a Wi-Fi connection along these routes for public service, like the library has,
I personally don't know the answer. Okay. I got to find out from the people working on it. So I don't know. I can find out and let you guys know, but I don't know the answer. Anything else?
Okay, one more. So,
Okay.
so this week, this week, SAMDAG has approved, spending more money on the gold mine. Because I want to see that come all the way to Ontario. Can you elaborate? Do you have any additional information on that?
No, we know that the Foothills Authority is trying to get a preliminary engineering and environmental work done because of the funds that are available to them. So they are probably going to go through with that and then come up with a project cost and a project definition. Then that will probably give us an idea of how much do we need and how it impacts the other projects in the region. As you know, our board is 13 board of directors and everybody represents a region or a district. So it has to go through that. So I don't know the answer. They are looking at it.
Can you give us any secrets?
Well,
How
I'm
long have you
married
been working
for the
in
last
this?
38 years. Tomorrow is my marriage anniversary day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we tell Holly that we treated you nicely?
Yes, sir.
Let's give them a huge round of applause. Thank you very much. We're going to run the meeting for a few more minutes.